You are called to this rising, born for this rising. There is a rebirthing and a rebuilding in the kingdom. The remnant is like a burnt wall that is still standing, strong and courageous, committed to the commitment, walk in understanding and lives in God's purpose. The remnant is bold and fearless. They go from purging to purity to process. There is a rising of the remnant, and the kingdom shall prevail. God bless you. Welcome again to Divine Insight Ministries. I am Apostle Robert Jenkins. It is a Friday evening. We haven't did this in a long time as far as teaching only. But God bless everybody. As always, we take out the time to say we love you. Thank you for who you are, but most of all for your hunger and thirst for God's word. And so we encourage you to continue on. Good to see you, Sister Royal. God bless everybody. Go ahead and hit that share button. Please share this on your page. We will be doing this probably till the 1st of January. We have a lot of things that God wants us to go over, a lot of things he wants us to release into the earth realm. So we'll be doing a lot of teaching. So thank you for coming. Go ahead, hit that share button just like you do in the morning. Please share this on your page. Please do that. Also tag about 10 to 15 people. Let them know that we are on live on a Friday evening doing teaching on understanding leadership. And we've been talking about a whole series on weariness, how not to become weary, what happens if you become weary, what's the results of or what produces weariness in the ministry, in your life, in your marriage, in your family, all those different things. So we'll be doing that today. But go ahead, hit that share button. Please share this on your page, tag and share. Okay, we thank everybody. If you haven't did it already, please subscribe to our channel, hit the notification button and the like button. Let us know how you're growing. This is an online ministry, so it's very important that you engage with us through your comments. So please do that. All right. And thank everybody for coming out. We're going to do maybe about an hour. I got a lot of teaching that God wants me to release concerning this. And I get so many phone calls today. I tell you, it's just amazing. Pastors and apostles that are calling me and asking me in a sense to cover them and to help them. They are in the crutch of being weary. And it's a right now we are dealing with a major attack on leadership. Those that are in position. There's a weariness that is coming to families, to marriages, to the whole nine now. And we want to be able to know that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. So how do you handle these forms of weariness when they do come? All right. So thank everybody for being here. And those who are going to watch the replay, thank you. I know others are coming on the way, but Sister Royal, good to see you. Sister Hawkins, good to see you. Sister Owens, good to see you. And so I'm not going to prolong the time. I know this is the evening, and so I want to give you that. So, but about an hour, but we'll go through some very critical things concerning weariness. We talked about what made Moses weary. Moses became weary because of the burden of the people. And sometimes weariness can come from the load that you're carrying as a mother, as a father, as a husband, as a pastor. You can carry the burden of that, and it can cause you to be weary. We talked about that. We talked about Elijah. His weariness came from victories. And a lot of times, right when you have a great success, you have a great fall. And that can cause you to have weariness as well. So Elijah's weariness didn't show up until after he had a great victory in life. And once he did that, he was attacked with weariness. He started bringing up things about his father and things that he was carrying all the time. And that's why you have to always pray for your leader, because you don't know what they're carrying. If anybody that's in position that has weight, has things assigned to them, you need to pray and intercede for them. You never know what they're carrying. Just because it looks well and just because it seems well don't mean that it is always well on the inside. And so we dealt with that weariness that Elijah dealt with. Then we dealt with David. And David is what we're going to continue on today. David weariness came from continually being in battle. He couldn't get a break. And sometimes life seems to deal those deck of cards that are, as soon as you finish one thing, there's another one. As soon as you got married and you had a baby, after the baby, you had a new job. After the new job, you had to get a car note. It just goes on and on. After one trouble, there's another trouble. This person passed in the family, this person passed in the family, and it goes on and on. Good to see you, Pastor C. Love you so much. Good to see Pastor C on with us again today. Sister Arlene Minor, good to see you. Brother John, God bless you. God bless you. All the way from Florida, one of my brothers, and we are connecting. We thank God for it. But sometimes you become weary because you don't get a break. Sister Yolanda North, God bless you. And so that can bring weariness. And sometimes we talked about that this morning. You need to have people in position that allows you to continue in the battle, but you're not carrying all the weight. And so one of the things that David had to learn is that he was carrying all the weight, and he carried all the weight because of his reputation. He was known for winning battles. And many times you become weary because that's the expectation everybody has on you. Everybody has on you that you're the one that can get it done. You're the one that can do this. You're the one that can do this. You're the one that can do that. And you can, and you're good at what you're doing. That don't mean all the weight or yeah, absolutely all the weight should only be on you. But many times because of your reputation, many times because of you're successful, many times because you're very good at what you do, but they will shift everything over to you. And this is what caused David to be in trouble with weariness, because his battles kept prolonging. Or sometimes you are in something and it looks like it never expires. Look like you don't get a break. It looks like it keeps continuing and keep extending its warranty in your life. And so that'll cause weariness as well. Is when, you know what, I thought I was only going to be in this for 6 months, 3 months, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. And now look how long it takes, especially if you're dealing with sickness or you're dealing with attacks, you're dealing with things like that. And so David's battle kept being prolonged. And we talked about that this morning, how it brought weariness to him. And he began to make statements in Psalms chapter 6. It's a statement that he made. He said, you know what, I cry all night. He said, I cry so much that my bed is full of tears. Here's a warrior, here's a worshiper, but he's crying in the midnight hour. Not because he's not in his right place, not because he don't have grace to do it, but because his battles don't end. They don't have an expiration date on them. And many times that can cause weariness. And so that's what we picked up at this morning. We're going to pick up with that again today, this evening, and go over some more points concerning that. But good to see everybody out today. I thank God for you. I see Sister Orange, you're putting up the notes, so thank you for that. All right. So point number one, David weary from battles. And I want to identify, I want to locate what caused weariness, and also want to locate and deal with how do you handle it. And so worries from prolonged battles. What are some of the solutions? And remember, this is always opening for questions and answers. So if you need to question me concerning anything, you want me to bring clarity towards anything, just put it in the comment section. I should be able to see it, and I'll try to address it. But weariness that comes from prolonged battles, what do? And I said this morning, you got to get leadership. And this is something I want us to change how we see leadership. When you're starting something new, don't focus on the people as much as your leadership. You need to focus on, and this is something from my experience and what God told me, I would say 3 to 5 years, the first 3 to 5 years, put more emphasis on building pillars, put more emphasis on building foundation. Don't look for great growth. Don't compare yourself to other things that are growing. Good to see you, Sister Holmes. Make sure that you have a support system so that when the real work and the real ministry begin, you can handle the load. One of the tricks of the devil, we talked about this morning, is to allow you to grow fast without having support to carry it. And one of the things the devil does, he's trying to mark people that you started out something, but you couldn't finish it well. You started out well, but you didn't finish it well. And sometimes we talk about this morning, sometimes the devil will hold back a Goliath until you get weak. You killed one Goliath, you may have killed 2 Goliath, you may have killed 3, but there's 5 of them. And he'll hold back one for your latter days, for the days when you're weary, when you're exhausted, when you're getting tired, you're getting irritated. And here comes another giant, and you don't have the strength to fight this giant because you didn't have a healthy support system. And that doesn't mean just having bodies in place. That means having people who are mature enough to fight, have enough level of success in their personal life that these battles do not, because many times you'll win the battle publicly, but you'll lose the battle in your own personal life. Your marriage is falling apart. Your children are falling apart. And that's what happened to David in one of his battles. He came home and his whole family was in captivity. And many pastors have experienced weariness from the result of fighting something by themselves, not having enough support, not having right people in place, real qualified people that has been proven that can be able to handle that load so that they don't lose their marriage over it. They don't lose their children over it. They don't lose their finances over it. They don't lose the things that God has given them personally. And so you got to be able, the battles are your assignment, but they're not your assignment to do them by yourself. That's not your assignment to do it by yourself. God will never put that much on you than you cannot bear. And many times the problem is that we're not having the proper help. And sometimes our excitement to wanting to move, to wanting to start something, to want to get it done, that type of anxiety, sometimes the zeal, but it's not according to knowledge. And next thing you know, you're out there and you're sweating and you're doing all you can. You are the one-man band. You're starting it, you're finishing it. I remember them days when I drove the van, cut the lights on, cleaned the church up, did the preaching, run to the organ, play the piano, do the altar call, and then take everybody back home and then come back to the church and clean it up. I remember those days. And those days will wear you down when you don't have help. And many times that is what weariness comes. And so a lot of times we'll see people who started out well and we'll say, what happened to them? Or there's a shift, and we'll talk about that in a minute. There's a shift in the ministry and you don't have the support system to be able to shift. You don't even have the strength to be able to shift. And so that's very key. And so those are some of the things, and that's what happened to David. His weariness came from prolonged battles. Point number one. Point number two, prolonged battles, and I want you to write this down, and we have, thank God for those who are keeping notes for us. Point number two, prolonged battles can blind leaders to the fact that seasons change and they don't realize that their warfare strategy should change also. Point number two, prolonged battles can blind leaders to the fact that seasons change and so should warfare strategies. In other words, you've been in this long enough, this season changed, and you still using the old ways. You're still using the old methods. And this will cause weariness. And this is something that I've been praying a lot about. This is something God has given me a greater wisdom on. How do you see your season change? Do you have people in your ministry? Have you developed your eyes enough to know that we are in a different season at your church? And many times you don't see the season change because of the level of success that you're having at a previous season, and it's shifting. And because it's been working, and we've been taught things that are not always wise or not always helpful. And what I mean by that is we've been taught things, if it's not fixed, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, some things don't need to be fixed, but they do need to be shifted. And so sometimes it is the good ground that keep you stuck, because eventually good ground will turn into bad ground when the seasons change for it and you still have an expectation on the old way to work. And so this is one of the keys, but you got to have people in place to be able to say our season is shifting here. I think we need to shift our times of service. Pastor C is on now. When we first started, we was at night at 6:30, and then we went to 7. And then there was one time when we was on Saturdays, and then there was one time when we was doing noonday, and we kept shifting according to the season. And so you have to be able to do that. Now, sometimes that's fearful when something is working for you and it seemed to start to go down, it's starting to sour, but sometimes you thinking that it's still the same season. I just have to make the adjustment. Sometimes the adjustment is not a adjustment for another season. Sometimes we try to adjust to try to save something in a season that is expiring. And to be able to have that wisdom that it's not that it's going sour because we're doing something wrong. It's not that it's going sour because of this or that or because of him or her. It's because the season is shifting. And can you see that the season is shifting and have enough courage, have enough faith to be able to change your strategy on how you deal with this new season that is coming? That can be fearful. Good to see you, Brenda. God bless you. That can be very fearful. That can be challenging, because what if you only had vision for one season? What if you only had a vision for the winter and you never had a vision for fall? You never had a vision for summer. You never had a vision for spring. And so now the seasons are changing and you're working trying to save something that needs to shift. And sometimes we don't know the difference between, does it need saving or does it need shifting? Does my strategy need saving? Does it need improving, or does it need shifting? And when you work out of seasons, you work yourself to death and you become weary because you're not getting the results that you need. You're not getting the fulfillment that you need. The people are becoming irritant. It's not working. Then jealousy and envy may show up, or you're starting to attack one another. You're starting to blame one another for you didn't do this and you didn't do this, and why this is not there and why this is not there and these things. And it's all because we're in a new season. That's all it is. And so that can make you weary. And we must be willing, be wise enough. We've got to have meetings and counsel. We got to go back into prayer. And I'll tell you another thing that causes this to be complicated, because when seasons shift, it looks like a new beginning. It looks like a new beginning. And many times we fear new beginnings when we've labored so hard to get to a certain place. We don't want to start over. And so seasons can look like a new beginning, but it's not a new beginning. It's just a new season. You're still in the same year. You're still in the same place. It's just a new season. It's a different environment now. But because you can't distinguish that new season, it looked like a new beginning. Now you have a greater fear. Good to see you, Sister Pamela. God bless you, woman of God. And so Sister Brown, God bless you. Sister Lankin, God bless you. And so all these things are important. So point number 2, prolonged battles can blind leaders. And this is why you need people. This is why we have to have a mutual submission. You got to be able to submit to other people. And I'm glad Pastor C was able to be with us this evening, because many times I had to submit to how he saw things, because I don't always see it the way he see it. And I got to trust his level of grace. You have to have mutual honor. I honor you, you honor me, because sometimes as being the leader, you so determined to get it done and you want it to be done and you have expectations and you've been waiting for certain days to come. And when they don't come, you can get blinded by what's the problem. You need other people. You have to trust other eyes. You have to trust other people's discernment. Don't train people to be wise and not use the wisdom you train them to operate in. And so you have to be able to have trust in those that you're laboring with, so that when this blindness comes, and they don't attack you. They don't say, I'm not serving a leader who's blind. No, my pastor is blind because his heart is such in this. And I got to help him see that the season is changing. And this is why you have to allow people to say, hey, maybe this is what's going on. And you be able to say, I think this season is changing. I don't think you're doing anything wrong, Apostle. I don't think we're missing it, because we have a tendency when things are not going right, we have a tendency to start blaming, and you're missing it and you're not doing this and where you at. And we find things that probably need to be perfected. But the problem is not what we need to perfect. The problem is it's just a new season. We can always do better. We can always be wiser. We can always improve. But sometimes it's not adding more pressure to improvement when it's just a change of season. Let's change our strategy, because we need a different strategy. You wear different clothes in the winter than you wear in the summer. Every year I switch out my closet. I've been blessed and thank God I have more than enough. But because I have more than enough, I have to sometimes get rid of all of my summer clothes and put them up and bring out my winter clothes, because the environment has changed. And I don't want to get sick because I'm not willing to shift. And shift doesn't mean blaming people, or why we have too much and you ain't taking care of this. And you see all of those things. And you can become weary even in that. You can become weary in trying to locate what's going on when God has placed people in your life, in your ministry, in your family, in your marriage that can help you see. I just think the season is changing. That's all it is. That's all it is. All right. And so point number 2, prolonged battles can blind leaders to the fact that seasons change, and so should warfare strategies. And sometimes changing strategies mean I got to go back to the table. It means I got to go back into prayer. It may mean that I need to isolate myself. I may have to go on a fast and see, how do I handle this next season in my life? I don't know what to do. I don't want to bring old equipment that I didn't wore out in the previous season. I can't bring a shovel that it's not sharp like it used to. I can't bring a dull knife. I got to go back and I may have to refresh on equipment. How do I equip myself for this new season and all those things? And this is how you don't become weary in well-doing. All right. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, familiar warfare creates leadership blind spots. I want you to write this down, and I want you to take heed. Now, this is what I'm teaching now is really seminary type stuff. It's theological kingdom advancement. This is major things that I'm giving you. People pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get this, and we're getting it for free. Right? Familiar warfare creates leadership blind spots, and many times there's a blind spot. Why? Because you're so familiar in the way that it used to work that you don't see that the season has changed. You're so convinced, and you have trophies, you have rewards, you have certificates of the last season. But sometimes the blind spot comes because you became too familiar with how it was. You become too familiar in how successful you was able to get it done. And now when a season changed, you can't believe that a season changed. You don't even want it. Matter of fact, many times it is not the devil, it is your comfortability and a level of success that causes you not to see what's really going on in your church, what's really going on in your life. You've become comfortable, familiar with one another. See, and this is how, and we'll talk about this, you become stagnant. There's no freshness in your marriage. There's no freshness in your friendship. There's no freshness in covenant relationships. Good to see you, Brother Kendrick. God bless you. Because this familiar warfare, you know how to fight, you know what to say, you know how to put out the fires, you know how to get people in place, you know how to use your influence, but it's all from a familiar place. And now you have blind spots. You're not seeing how the devil is creeping in. You're not seeing, good to see you, Pastor Jeff, love you so much. You're not seeing certain things. One of the greatest ways for the devil to create blind spots in leadership is through familiar places that are successful. Familiar warfare, when you think you know how to do it. I know how to deal with my ushers. I know how to deal with my praise team. I know how to do that. And many times you have blind spots and things are creeping up on you, but you're so familiar that you don't even see these blind spots. You don't even see how the devil crept in. You don't even see how jealousy and envy is coming in. You don't even see how you becoming lethargic or you becoming lazy or you becoming very comfortable. See, and many times that has become the problem for weariness in leadership because familiar warfare creates blindship in leadership. And you need people that you have mutual respect for, you have mutual honor for, you have mutual submission, that you trust them. And some people are on the outside for a reason. Some people don't have the weight and the load. It's designed by God so they can see your blind spots. They are in that position. They're backseat drivers for a reason. That's why you got to not try to put everybody in major places. You need people in certain places that can see things you can't see. See, because you'll get weary in trying to make something work when the season has shifted. And you're so familiar with your level of success that you don't even realize it's not going to work in this season. It's not going to work. And it's not the people. It's not for you to blame. It's not for you to attack. It's for you to come up with different strategies for this season. That's all it is. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not out of the wheel. See what I'm saying? It's just, it's a new season. It's winter time. And you may not have had a vision for the season. I have been a part, and Pastor Jeff is on, and he was with me during this time. I've been a part of churches. This one particular church, they did great for 10 years. For 10 years, it was strong. It grew. It multiplied. There was no rumors. There was no attacks. It did well. But then all of a sudden, God starts sending apostolic prophetic people. He starts sending other people to the ministry. And he thought that the people that God was sending him was for increase, but it really was for shifting. And many times we miss the shifting season of a church. And so God will send people to help you shift, but you gotta be able to trust the people that God is sending. You have to have a relationship with the people that God is sending. So when they see that it's time to shift, because if you don't shift, then blind spots will become your stagnation. Some people are planted, other people are stuck, and they look the same. There's a difference between being stuck and being planted. And the difference is what is able to bear fruit. See? You call, and many times you may be fruitful, but you're not multiplying. Good to see you, Sister Jan. God bless you. And so you got to know those things, okay? And so you have to trust people, and God is sending people, and they are in position. That's why you can't make everybody be the same, because some people, they're watchmen, and I'm learning this more in my latter season as a person. That's right. You need people who will not agree with your ignorance. Good, Pastor Jeff. Very key. And sometimes you're ignorant, not because you're not educated, but because you're so familiar with the level of success that has worked for you. You're ignorant to the new season. You're ignorant to it. And so God will send people that may be more prophetic than you, may understand evangelism at a greater level than you do. Because you're a pastor, you only can work according to the measure of grace you've been given. No one has all fivefold grace to be able to see it all. This is why you have the fivefold ministry. And so you need that, but you got to trust people, because many times when people bring up our blind spot, we attack them. We make them feel like they are insubordinate. You're coming against leadership. God gave me the vision. Well, he didn't just give the vision to you. He gave the vision to us. He said unto them, be fruitful, multiply, and replenish. And so it's when you pray, say, our Father. And we know it's a unit thing. He speaks to the body. There are many members, but one spirit, one Lord, one faith. And so you got to be able to have that level of relationship with people to the point that when they bring up, you know what, there's a blind spot. I don't think you recognize it. And I see it. And I see that blind spot, and I don't want the devil to creep in. I don't want them to tear down what we're building. You know what? And what I see is that it's time to shift. It's time to shift. We are in a different season, and we did well in the previous season, but we got to get ready. And you may have to get ready for something that you have never been trained for, but God has sent people who have been trained. See, very key. And most of my experiences with ministries that I've seen that didn't shift, there's a major decline. And it looked like they started out good, but they end up in the flesh. They start out in the spirit, they end up in the flesh. And most of the time, it was not due to sin. Now, sin eventually comes along, but most of the time, it started out because you don't shift. And I always say this, if you don't shift, you'll be sifted. When Jesus told Peter, the devil desired to sift you as wheat, he was really telling Peter, that's why he said, Simon, Simon. He really was telling Simon, it's time for you to shift into Peter. You got to really accept your mantle. You are the one. I revealed to you who I am. Out of all the 12, you got the revelation, but you got to shift and you got to stop living as Simon. It's time for you to live as Peter. He didn't understand the shifting. And so because he didn't understand the shifting, he ended up being sifted. And many ministries end up being sifted because they didn't shift. Okay. And this is because point number 3, they became familiar with warfare, but it creates blind spots. Remember, familiar, and many people are afraid of movements because you're not in control. When something God called you to be the leader over, or one of the under shepherds, many times you just want to get it flowing and keep it the same. Let's not mess with it. And God is all about shifting. Constantly, right when you think you got it, here's another shift. Right when you think you're there, here's another shift. And sometimes that's fearful because shifting look like starting over. And sometimes we can't discern that. Okay, very key, right? And come on, Pastor Jeff. Pastor Jeff is with it. If you don't shift, the car stalls. That's right. And many times you'll blow the clutch in the stick shift if you don't shift. You'll ruin those gears. And how many people's lives have been ruined because you couldn't shift? Because and shifting, not shifting, really sometimes is an expression of weariness. Weariness says you didn't shift. All right. And so that's point number 3. Point number 4. What once was effective can become a habit. And this is very common. You need the right people in your circle, your inner circle, to be able to see just because it was effective don't mean we should always use it. And be very careful what becomes a habit, because what becomes a habit becomes a habitation, and things will live in a habitation. And sometimes we don't shift because it worked. I say this all the time. I've been saying this over 30 years, 40 years of my life. Most of the time, God will have you leave good ground. And most people don't shift because the ground is good. But real transformation, you'll see if you study historical transitions, most of the time in the Bible, when God transitioned, he transitioned you from good ground, not from bad ground. See, we do it wrong. We leave it when it's bad and we stay with it when it's good. And many times you got stuck because it was good. And you got deceived because it was bad and you pulled away. But you got to know that just because I'm being effective don't mean that's my permanent spot. I had to learn that as apostle, because many times God would send me and things would get working. They would do well. And then I just wanted to be there. I wanted to put my stakes there. And God says, nope, it's time for you to go. You have finished your assignment. You've given them what I want you to give them. And it's time for you to move. And I say, nothing's wrong. He says, why does something have to be wrong to leave? And many times that's why we end up being ripped in ministries, because we don't know how to transition, or we don't even know how to launch people into transition. Most sons and daughters should have been transitioned into the next place, not ripped into it. Because when you ripped into it, you go into a new place bleeding. You go into a new place wounded. But many times we don't know how to pass the baton. This is what causes weariness too. When you don't know how to pass the baton, you've never trained no one to take your place. And when you don't train nobody, real leadership is about training people to take your place so that you can move to the next place. It's not for you to leave the place unoccupied, but if you're not training no one else to take your place, then you always want to be in control. And what happens is now you're not working on legacy nor inheritance. Inheritance is what you leave behind for your sons and daughters. What if you're not raising sons and daughters? So you're not leaving no inheritance, which makes you not a qualified father. See, very key. And so in many times, how does this become effective? The devil will allow you to magnify. He'll put people around you that will celebrate how effective you are, and they don't understand it's time for you to shift. And so now your effectiveness become a habit, and you only do it that way. Once it become a habit, there is no room for change. There's no room for adjustments. And now what happens is you become religious. And religion is nothing but a move of God that did not move when God moved. Every form of religion, if you go back to the origin of it, started out as a move. That's what something God called. The problem is he moved from that, and we kept doing it because we got habit of being effective. See, this is why a lot of times in the Bible, God would do different miracles different ways. So you won't get stuck in thinking that it only come one way. No, it's many ways that it comes. And you can't hinder a movement by making it a monument. Because movements that become monuments become museums, and now we only visiting places of dead success. It's just old pictures that used to be wonderful. Look where we was. And most people, when they bring up the move of God, they have to go back to the museum to say, back in the day, back in the day, back in the day. Why is it back in the day? Is not God still moving today? Because what was effective became a habit. It should have stayed a movement. And you got to be very careful. And now you're boxing God in to what used to work. See? And you'll find out in ministries where they're shifting, we have a hard time letting go of what used to work. I've been in many churches, and they'll say, we need to bring the roles back. We don't need to bring no roles back. See, but because that was successful, and there were certain things, and we want to make a habit, and now we have certain ways, and we do it this way, and this is how we do our communion, this is how we do our Sunday school, this is how we do our church, this is what we always did this, we did this as a family, we did, and now there is no adjustment for the next generation. There is no space for the next generation, and they coming in with all this creativity, but their creativity, if it don't fit into our box, we won't do it. And now we block out the next generation. The young people don't see space in our habits. They don't see creativity in our habits. See? And it can cause weariness. Well, why is this? Why people are not embracing? Why we're not growing? Because what once was effective, you legalized it. You legalized the move of God to be able to have a credibility of something that was, instead of moving where God is. All right. So that's point number 4. Point number 5. You don't want movements to turn into mechanics, robotic. Many times a wife is robotic, a husband is robotic, friendship is robotic, because it was a movement at first, but now we know. And how many churches do you know exactly how it's going to go? You know, they're going to start out with prayer, then they're going to move to the offering. Then after the offering, they're going to sing 2 songs. After 2 songs, he's going to preach. After he preached, he's going to lay hands on the same people every week, all these things. See? Mm-hmm. Pastor Jeff, I think I should have had you on here with me today. You said they didn't shift, Kodak didn't shift, Redbox didn't shift. That's right, we got to shift. Yep. Yep. And me and Pastor C was talking about that. I think last week was talking about all the people who didn't shift. I think it was one of the men's teachings, and we talked about what was it? Blockbuster didn't shift, and look what happens when you don't shift. And it brings weariness and sometimes brokenness, and sometimes things become demolished. Okay. You don't want that movement to turn into mechanics. I don't want to be robotic in how I worship. You don't want to start worshiping how you worship. You made an idol out of how you worship. It's mechanics. We know what to do. We know how to pray a certain prayer. You ever listen to yourself pray sometime and you say, man, I start my prayer off the same way. It can become a movement, can become robotic. It become mechanics. And now you become frustrated because you're looking for results, but you're still doing it the same way, which is insanity. You're still doing it the same way. All right. So you want to be aware of that. I'm giving you points of how to deal with. And these are all the things that David had to deal with. We talked about 3 different people so far. Moses' weariness came from the burden of the people. It caused him to be weary. He took it personal, and God had to replace him because he didn't sanctify. He didn't sanctify God in the eyes of the people because he became burdened. People can burden you down as a leader. Elijah became burdened right after a victory. And a lot of leaders, the minute you have your greatest success, you have your greatest fall. And it creates weariness like Elijah. As soon as he won that battle, Jezebel sent him into depression right after the greatest victory of his life. And you have to be able to handle that level. Can you handle continuous victory without becoming depressed? That's something I used to deal with. And it really dealt with low self-esteem. I didn't believe that my success, I didn't believe I was worthy of it. I had low self-esteem. As much as I was gifted, deep within, I thought, how long this gonna last? They're gonna leave me too. They're gonna leave me too. See, all these different things. How long this gonna last? Is this gonna work? And all those things. And so I went through roller coasters of depression. My greatest revival created my greatest depression. And so I was like Elijah. And that's when he started bringing up his father. I'm no greater than my father. You'd be surprised at the things that haunt you, but you don't tell nobody. But they're chasing you, like Pharaoh chasing right before they crossed the Red Sea. And there are many things that chase us that brings us into depression that we never told nobody because we kept doing what we was doing, but deep within, we had some insecurity concerning some things. And then we dealt with David. And David, weariness come from fighting. That's the real reason why David didn't want to go to battle. Sometimes we don't preach a text from a healthy way. Sometimes we're not healthy in how we break down the text because we don't get into the whole narrative. But one of the reasons why David didn't want to go to battle and he ended up in bed with Bathsheba is because he got tired of always fighting. See, David was fighting all of his life. David was fighting as a young boy. Before he killed Goliath, he was fighting. That's why he said, I had to kill the lion and the bear. Nobody knew. And there are private struggles that many great leaders, I've been fighting all my life. When I was 5 years old, I was fighting for my identity. When I was 7, I was fighting. And many people don't know how long you've been fighting. They just say, well, you just got in the ministry. You just got married. But I didn't just get in the fight. I've been fighting all my life. And so David got tired of always fighting. And what made it worse for him, because he was good at fighting. He was successful. And many people don't see you getting weary because you're so successful in what you do. Okay? And so very key. So you don't want to turn moments or movements into mechanics. Point number 6, when strategy turns into stagnation, And you got to look at this and you got to be honest. And I want you to, I hope you hear in my heart this evening, I'm not insensitive to what it takes to be in leadership. I have pastored many churches. I have started many churches. I have released many people into ministry. I have hundreds of sons and daughters, literally, that I've helped people. But I'm telling you, it's fearful when the strategy that once worked is not working. It's fearful when you are in a new season of your life and you don't understand. For the first time, you have to lean on other people to help you. It's fearful to look like I'm having a new beginning when it's just a season change. It's fearful. So point number 6, I'm not saying it as if I'm not sensitive. I just want you to know the reality. Many times strategies turn into stagnations and you just walking in Gilgal. You're just walking in circles. You're not going, you're moving, but you're not, but there's no movement. There's no advancement. It's like the horse we used to ride back in the day when our mothers used to go to them stores. I don't even think they have those stores open, but they used to have these horses outside of stores, like clothing stores, and you can put a quarter in it, and your child can just rock. And he'd be rocking, wee, wee. And you had so much fun, but you wasn't going nowhere. You just was rocking. And that's a lot of times what causes weariness. It's how long you gonna rock it and it hasn't moved. We haven't moved spiritually. There's really no growth in the church. Everybody's still babies, but we're rocking every Sunday. Every Sunday we're shouting. Every Sunday you're pushing your heart out. But there's no strategy that's taking us out of stagnation. And it's a terrible thing to experience. A lot of pastors don't even want to face it. We can't, you have to face it and then trace it and then replace it. But many times we don't even want to replace it or trace it because I don't want to face that the strategy that I'm using got me stuck. When strategies turn into stagnation, when the marriage is getting no higher, no love is increasing, no romance is increasing, nothing. It's just you're working the strategy, but the strategy brought me into stagnation. For some reason, it's not fulfilling. And it's a dangerous thing. You got to face it. You got to trace it. You got to replace it. But you have to accept that this is not moving. And we got to do something about it. Okay, you got a question. When God hasn't given you the vision for your next, what do you do during the wait, or how to sustain? That's a loaded question. I'll try to answer it in 3 parts because it's really a 3-part question. So when God hasn't given you the vision, if God hasn't given you a vision, or those who are connected to you a vision, then the first thing is not to move. You never move because you're hearing about other people moving. You don't move because it looked like it's too long. You move because you know where you're going. Vision is direction that's tied to the assignment. And so God will never give you an assignment without giving you a vision of how to do that, even if it's just follow him. And many times he may not tell you where you're going, but he will tell you what you're leaving. That's Abraham. So he didn't tell Abraham where to go, but he did tell him what to leave. And you hear me say many times that, watch this, it's not where you're going, it's what you're willing to leave behind. And so the first part of that question is, if the vision has not come, then usually the assignment has not come. Because God knows that without a vision, people perish. So if he gave you an assignment without a vision, then it's going to perish anyway, because you don't have the direction. But many times the vision is not clear on where to go. And I want you to hear that part. Sometimes the vision is what to leave behind. So he tells Abraham, I'm not telling you where to go, but I am telling you, you got to go. And you got to leave father. That's what I want you to leave behind. I want you to leave mother. That's what I want you to leave behind. I want you to leave your kindred. I want you to leave your country and go to a place I'm going to show you. And so that's one part of answering that question. The second part is what Abraham did. At every place that God led him, the very first thing he would do when he got there was build an altar. When you don't know what to do, you must build a place where you can commune with God in prayer. God's house must be a house of prayer. And so many times, and you will see after every transition in the Bible, either before or after Jesus moved, he would always go into prayer. He would go in prayer after a transition. He would go into prayer before a transition. See? And usually the prayer after the transition was the same prayer before the transition. It's the same prayer. And so many times when you in prayer, you are in prayer to bring closure on where you've been, but also to open doors of where you're going. And so this is the key. So the second part of that question is your next move has to come out of prayer. You don't move until it's clear. Now, many times the vision may not come to you in totality. This is where you got to know those. Every joint supply. Every joint supply. This is the fivefold ministry. So you have to trust other people in your inner court leadership to be able to see, what are you seeing? I believe that this last move is over. I believe God is telling us it's time for us to pull away from this, to stop doing that. And you trust the eyes and the ears of those that God has set. He's set. There's a set man in the house. There's a set woman in the house. There are set persons in the house. First apostles, prophet, secondary prophet, thirdly teachers. And so you check with those people in prayer. In prayer. In prayer. What is on your heart? What is God saying? And sometimes when they speak, it becomes clear now. Okay, I got more clarity. When you said that, there was a kicking in my spirit. My baby leaped. I believe that's what God is saying. And now, if two or three gather in my name, touching and agreeing, whatever they ask, it will come to pass. And so that's one of the ways that we know. So we wait on God. Sometimes the vision is what we're leaving, not where we're going. And don't let nobody make you feel bad when you don't know where you're going, but you know what you most. You know what you must leave, because a lot of times we don't have this kind of wisdom and knowledge, right? And so people that say, why would God send you somewhere and don't tell you where you're going? Well, that's all the way through the Bible. But he will tell you what to leave. You got to leave. And you got to follow him. And many times God won't tell you where to go because he want to know, can you trust me without knowing? See, many times what we call faith is not faith. Until we have facts, we don't move. Faith is what I heard. It's evidence things not seen. And so many times I just heard God leave. I don't have to have all the clarity. I don't have to know. I don't have to be in control of the knowledge before I trust him. I trust him. Go to McDonald's. I go to McDonald's. You don't have to tell me why, who I'm going to meet, what his name is, what time he's going to be there. No, he said go to McDonald's. When I get there, I'll wait for the next instructions. Go to a mountain. He went to the mountain. Sacrifice his son. When he get there, he'll change. Many times the shift don't come until you follow the first instructions. So maybe that's the key. All right. So that's some of the answers. And you said for your next move, what do you do during the wait? In waiting time is always praying time. Waiting time is always praying time. And many people, we don't get a revelation of how to wait. We know about sowing. We know about. That's right. Come on, Pastor Jeff. Never said to understand. He said to obey. And watch this. And somebody might say, well, the Bible says in all that getting, get understanding. Here's your understanding that you don't understand. Did you understand it? See, because sometimes the understanding is that I don't have to understand. And that I understand that I don't have to understand. That's in all thy getting. Get an understanding. And you may say, well, is that Bible? Sure it is. Trust in the Lord with all the heart, lean not to thy own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall prophetically direct your path. And so sometimes the understanding is I'm just going to obey God. That's the understanding. Sometimes the understanding is I'm just going to follow what God says. Okay, so that's very key. Now, in waiting, you have to have a revelation. One of my sons in the ministry, he wrote a song years ago. He's never released it. It's a powerful song. And it's called In the Meantime. In between time, I'll be waiting on you. God gave me a song this year. I released about 7 songs that God gave me. I haven't released them to the world, but God, he gave them to me in my den. And one of the songs is, I'll be waiting. Da-da. While I'm waiting, I'll be trusting in you. While I'm waiting. And so many times that waiting is you just trusting God. It's in between time. You know you sown, but you haven't seen a harvest. You know what you heard, but you haven't seen the manifestation. It is in between time in most most of the attacks come for the in-between time so that you can leave before the miracle happens. See? And so all of these, again, are strategies of prayer, because sometimes God will tell you to move from a place, but then he didn't tell you where to go yet. And so you're not in the promised land, but you can't stay in Egypt. And can you trust him in the wilderness, in the in-between time? Do you know how to deal with God from day to day before you get more than enough? Because some of us want the more than enough, but you don't know how to trust God from day to day. See, the wilderness is see if you can depend on him from day to day. Before I give you a land flowing with milk and honey, can you depend upon me every day? And most of the time we want enough money in the bank, then we say we believe God. But can you believe me for every day, for a daily meal? See, and so that's the time. So during the waiting time, and how do you sustain? Sustaining comes from constantly hearing and constantly abiding. He said, if you abide in me and I abide in you, your fruit shall remain. So the key to remaining, or the key to sustaining, comes from abiding. And many times you pulled away from the vine. That's why you couldn't sustain, because the power to sustain doesn't come from your strength. It comes from the vine. See, I'm the vine, you are the branches. Without me, without staying in the vine, without staying in prayer, without staying in consecration, you will not be able to sustain, especially in the meantime, because you don't have no evidence. You don't have no evidence. You just know what you heard. All right. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you, Sister Royal. Very great question. All right. And all these things, if you don't have the right strategies, you don't seek God, then it can cause weariness, especially to leadership. Good to see you, Brother Charles. Good to see you. All right. So strategies that turn into stagnation. And when that happens, you got to ask God to give you a renewal. In order for Elijah to get back in the game, God had to bake him a cake. God had to take him to the place of Elam, the place of refreshing. And sometimes you need a refreshing. Sometimes he told him to rest, eat and rest. Sometimes you need rest. You need a vacation, okay? Because you've been stagnant. Sometimes you need another environment. You need somebody else to see. This is when you bring outside help in to help you with the load, or you use your inside help at a greater accountability so you can rest. That's something that God wants me to do next year. I'm going to be using a lot more people in the ministry here in New Orleans because he wants me to travel a lot next year. My calendar is already picking up. I'm already in the month of April. January, February, March is almost all the way filled. And so I got to use more because he wants me to do more. So if I got to train somebody to take my place here in the city so that I can go and do other works. I got to cover base 3. I need somebody to cover the first and the second base. All right. Very key. All right, point number 7, leaders can become so trained for yesterday's giants that they miss today's new enemy. Very key point, point number 7. Leaders can become so trained for yesterday's giant. And this is something I was talking to my wife about. We was talking about Christmas and I was explaining the revelation of Christmas, but some people will not celebrate Christmas because they still tied up into the commercial car. That's a yesterday's giant. That's a yesterday's giant. Should a woman wear pants? That's a yesterday's giant. Can a woman preach? That's a yesterday's giant. And sometimes we were so trained to deal with yesterday's giant that the new demons that's showing up, same-sex bathrooms, we have no strategy for. We have no strategy for because we only know how to deal with old giants. And what happens is we bring everybody to an old paradigm that didn't even work back then. We're still trying to make it work now. That method you used didn't draw young people back then. The minute they got older, they left. The minute they got underneath your thumb, they stopped doing what you made them do. And so many times weariness comes because leaders can become so trained for yesterday's giant that you're not even ready to deal with the new enemy of today. What is the issue for the day? When the Bible talks about that we are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, and he said, you cannot be no priest for me nor your children. Hosea chapter 4, that word silent, that word destroy means to be silent. And it's a bad thing when you're in leadership, but you don't have any words for new problems. You have no wisdom for new problems. This is why we still do an altar call the same way. Most churches are moving, but they're not healthy because they don't know how to really deal with new issues. So they're not healthy. So what they do, and if you come there healthy, they'll try to make you feel like you got to have something. Everybody got something in their life because we don't know how to deal with healthy people. I got to make you sick. There's got to be some sin in your life. See, so I make you sin conscious and not choice conscious. And we still teaching sin when Paul said, you know what? We should be leaving some things. See, leaving, Ephesians chapter 6. You should be leaving lands on the hands. But by now you should be teachers, but you still need somebody to teach you because you never exercise your senses. That's what it says. Go read Ephesians chapter 6. See? He said we should move it on to more effective things, a more excellent way. But because many times we've been trained to only deal with giants that our grandmothers was fighting. You still fighting something. You still arguing over should you buy and sell at the church? Should we have chicken dinners or should we not? What color should the carpet be in church? Who should have the control of the money? And we got real new demons that show up. And we don't know how to deal with that giant because we were only trained to deal with the giants of the old. We have no revelation of our experiences, which is the most dangerous thing. No revelation with experience will always keep you stuck in the experience. You'll always see it the same way because you have not been revealed a new way to see it. I always say you change how you see things will change. But you haven't changed how you see it. And this caused weariness in leadership. Hope I'm helping you today. David was skilled in slinging that slingshot. You ever notice that when David killed Goliath with that slingshot, they didn't adapt and bring slingshots to the weaponry of warfare? They didn't say, let's get rid of all our swords and let's everybody start using slingshots. David used that slingshot for one giant, and that slingshot wasn't used again in battle. See? And so many times we got to know that was for you, for that time, for that reason, for that purpose. Don't make everybody in every generation do it the way you did it because it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You can't threaten kids with hell anymore and think that's going to make them be in the choir. You can't tell them if you don't give, you're going to hell. They're going to McDonald's after church and they're not going to give you all their money. It's not going to work. Leadership has become so trained for yesterday's giants that they missed today's new enemy. That was David. But the Philistines later used new weapons for new giants. Go read 2 Samuel chapter 21, and you will see how they used new weapons because they had to deal with new giants. It's very key. Very key. All right. Point number 8. We're doing good today on time. Give about 10 or 15 extra minutes and we'll be done. Point number 8. If your strategy doesn't change, danger will occur. It's real simple. If your strategy doesn't change, danger will occur. You have to be able, and you have to overcome your fears of shifting. If you don't shift, you'll be sifted. You got to trust the new minds that God is sending. You got to trust new methods, same spirit, different administrations, same spirit, different operations, same spirit. What you check is the spirit. You try the spirit by the spirit. Don't legalize one method. The method can change. The message cannot change, but the method and how we interpret the message must grow. Even Jesus increased in knowledge. See, very key. If the strategy doesn't change, then weariness is inevitable. You are going to become weary. You are going to become bitter. You are going to become frustrated. Why? Because you're not changing your strategy. You can blame the people. You can attack the people. You can do all those things. You can be by yourself and mad and regretful, all because you weren't willing to change your strategy. All right. Point number 9. Old methods cannot sustain new mantles. Old methods can't sustain new mantles. God is giving new mantles. God is giving new mantles. God is giving new methods. Old methods can't sustain it. And many people have dropped their mantle because they tried to do it the way you told them to do it, and it doesn't sustain them. It doesn't bring about a fulfillment. This is why you hear me say as an apostolic father, I push my sons and daughters, go do what God tells you to do. All I do is try to secure if the foundation you built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, is it a secure foundation? Do you know proper interpretations of the scriptures? But I don't try to limit how God sees you, because every level goes higher. I understand that God is always improving. Every scientist rechecks a previous scientist's genius to see can we improve. And you hear commercials, new improved toothpaste, new improved, new improved. We are the only entity that is not improving. Technology is improving, scientists is improving, biology is improving, but it looks like the church is still doing the old ways. Old ways cannot sustain new mantles. We learned that through COVID. We had to learn how to have church without having an organ or a piano. And for a lot of pastors, it killed them, because they didn't know how to walk into a new mantle. They didn't know how to shift. I was on Facebook 8 or 9 years prior to COVID. God had already taught me how to shift, how to look at a computer and be just as anointed, with no choir, no praise team, no feedback, no amen, or hear nothing, and be able to still deliver. Because old methods cannot sustain new mantles. Number 9 is something you really got to learn if you're in leadership, because what God is calling for and what the new generation is bringing, you can't give them. Giving Joshua a rod does him no good for the promised land. Joshua is never going to run into a Red Sea. So why would you give him a rod? As great as Moses was, he needed a rod for the Red Sea. Joshua needs shoes. Whatever your foot come, their end result was the same. Moses was taken to the promised land. Joshua was taken to the promised land. But the method was different. The common denominator is, I'm going to be with you like I was with Moses, but I'm not going to be with you the same way. And you can't keep passing rods to people who don't have no Red Sea. Old methods can't sustain new mantles. Okay, David needed new warriors, new structure, new support. Write that down. As a leader, you may need new warriors to pull you out of this weariness. You may need a new structure, and you may need new support. And be okay with new coming in, ready. God is sending you remnant, people that's already been through and they've been trained. You can't send everybody through all the beginning stages. You have to do examination and see where they're at. You have to locate them, but you can't send everybody back to beginnings. You don't have the time. You don't have 40 years. See? You don't have it. So you got to be able to accept people that God has already prepared to connect with you. They're going to come ready to go. All right? New warriors, new structure, new support. Okay? Very key. And when you've been doing something a certain way so long, it'll convince you that the old way is the only way. This is a very common problem I've sat under many pastors, women, and men, and I've seen this common denominator. But prolonged warfare will convince them, because they've been fighting so long and doing it this way so long. It's the only way I ever did it, and it's how God been using me. Sometimes they are so convinced that they must do it the old way. And that's when usually splits come. That's when shifting comes. That's when transition comes, or God will confuse the languages. See? What once was obedience can become disobedience when the system shifts. All this is a part of number 9. What once was obedience can become disobedience, because God is asking something different out of you and you keep doing it the old way. The season shifted and you got to see new ways. All right. Point number 10. We got 3 more points and we're going to close it out. Comfort in battle can bring idolatry. I'm seeing this a lot. This is something that God has been talking to me about. He's been showing me certain leaders who they were made idols. And they were made idols because of the success. This is why I try to be as transparent. I try to reveal to you in proper timing things I've been through, because transparency comes when you've been through. You don't tell it when you're in it. When you're in it, you're bleeding. When you come out of it, you can be that's when you transparent. Transparency supposed to be transferable. Bleeding should not be transferable. Don't transfer wounds. Don't transfer wound consciousness. So once you come out of it, you give people the solution of how you made it over. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony that we come out of it. But many times idolatry came in because of the comfort in battle. This is why I'm very leery of wilderness conversations. People who only want to talk about problems but not talk about solution. That's a danger. And for 20 years, y'all been talking about the same thing. You keep having a meeting about a meeting about a meeting. That's dangerous. That's comfort in battle. And what happens is they'll make an idol out of somebody. That's what happened to the children of Israel. That's why when Moses went to the mountaintop and they didn't go, they built the idol, because we need something to worship. We need something to worship. And since you want to go to God and we don't want to worship God, we're going to create a God that we'll worship. And most people will create what they want to worship. They created you. They created that image. They created a certain lifestyle so they can worship that lifestyle. They created a certain name so they can worship that name. Comfort in battle can become idolatry. So this is the only church that knows this. My man, my woman of God, or my man of God is the only pastor that can have this. Oh, you make an idol out of him. The more battles you survive, you have to be careful with idolatry. The more confident you become, you have to be very careful. That's why you have to say humble with all humility. The Bible says, make your call and election sure with all meekness, long suffering, forbearing one another. Okay? Meekness. What's the other one? Humility, lowliness, there it is. Long suffering, forbearing one another. Endeavor to keep the unity, not to create it, but to keep it. Endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit. The more confident you become, the less dependent you become, the more predictable your response become. Those who are helping me with notes, put those three things down. The battles you survive, the more confident you become, the less dependent you become. You don't depend upon other people. I can get it done. I can get it done. It's all about me. These are dangers. You're gonna move into weariness. And the more predictable your response become. Okay? You got to be careful. And it can happen to anybody. So that's why you need people to pray for you. That's why I have intercessors that pray for me. Intercessory prayer, covering me in prayer. I need watchmen who can see. Okay, I see he's becoming so confident. He's becoming arrogant. He used to be humble. But because we was able to conquer that, we was able to conquer this, all of a sudden now he think he can do anything. He think he's beyond the law. She thinks she's beyond the law. And before you know it, idolatry is in the place. Satan doesn't defeat confident leaders. He defeats comfortable ones. When you become comfortable, because comfortability sometimes elevates confidence. You have to be careful of that. And when you start hearing statements like, we always did it this way, this is the mindset that destroys longevity. Because ultimately, we're talking about endurance, we're talking about longevity, and weariness is one of the enemies of longevity. All right. Point number 11, leaders can confuse assignment with identity. You must know the difference between who you are and what you do. You must know the difference between who you be and what you do. Leaders can confuse assignments with identity, and it's a bad thing when you are identified by your assignment. The reason why this is called weariness, and this is another thing I used to struggle with, because when you're not doing, you'll start saying, well, who am I then? Well, who am I then? I ain't doing that. I ain't doing nothing. You're not defined by what you do. You're defined by who you be. Leaders can confuse assignments with identity. David saw himself as a warrior. But God had transitioned him to a father of warriors. See? God had transition. You'll see transition from Sarai to Sarah, to Abram to Abraham, from father to multitudes of father. And many times it's not a shifting in the church because you're not shifting as a person. And your identity that's tied to what you do won't let you shift. Because you're thinking, who I'll be if I don't do it, if I'm not doing this anymore, if I'm not running the church anymore, if I'm not in charge anymore, then who am I? And now you are, and what happens is you'll protect a comfortable position and you won't transition. See? And now you attack anybody, everybody becomes a threat to your position because that's how you define yourself. So you don't think you're worthy unless you are the pastor, unless you have everything to say. David saw himself as a warrior, but God was transitioning him as a father of warriors. Okay. Leadership becomes weary when they fight in roles they have outgrown. Write that down. When they fight in roles that they have outgrown. You've outgrown that role. You're supposed to pass that baton. And I'll come back and teach something I learned from Pastor Whiteside. He taught me this. He said there's a time in transition where even in a relay race, that both people's hands are on the baton. He said we have a problem with that in church. When the first runner has ran around the track, it's time for that runner to pass the baton back to the next one. But there's a time when both hands, and many times we don't know how to explain that. So are you the leader or he's the leader? But you got to know that we both are leading right now, but I'm transitioning. And so my hands are still on it, but my hands are on it so that we don't drop it. My hands are not on it to carry it to the next place. God had sent somebody to carry it to the next place. And so my hands are only on it so we don't drop it in transition. Many times we don't understand that. And so what happens is we think the next person is trying to take our place. Your place you have outgrown. Good to see you. Mo, God bless you. You have outgrown that place and you can't stay in a place you have outgrown. It's time to transition. So you keep your hands on it only long enough for me to grab it. Only long enough for me to carry it through. You have ran your race. You have ran your cycle. You have ran your season. But we don't teach that. See? And you're not less than because you don't have the same assignment. You have a different assignment. See, I understand. I started out as a drummer. I barely play drums now. God is transitioning me. When I started out playing piano, I was just a songwriter. Then God led me to play for churches. One day I will have a musician that plays for me. I'll transition. Right now, I don't preach for entertainment or to reveal how deep or how much revelation. I'm a coach now. I'm operating as an apostolic father. My job is to raise up sons. To raise up sons, because I can't just be fruitful. I got to multiply. You haven't finished if you're just fruitful. Fruitful is how many apples is on the tree. The question God want to have is how many trees is in the land. You don't have no sons, no daughters. See? And so you have to understand that transition. And I can transition. Why? Because my identity doesn't lie in what I do. If I'm not teaching, if I'm not preaching, if I'm not playing, I'm still powerful. I'm still a son of God. The highest position is sonship. I'm a son regardless of what I'm doing. And so when God moves me from one level to another level, I don't have to fear who I am because I've outgrown it. Leaders become weary when they fight in roles that they have outgrown. They refuse to embrace their next dimension. I'm going to do a leadership class when I go to Florida. I'll be there for 10 days. And this is one of the points I'm going to spend time with. That you got to embrace your next dimension. When I was a child, I thought as a child. But I did everything as a child. But when I became a man, God didn't take it. The devil didn't steal it. I put it away. I put away childish things. Maturity teaches you how to leave and how to put it away. And we shift. You got to shift to your next dimension. Because if you outgrown it, it doesn't fit. Now you're breaking things because you're trying to fit in places you don't fit anymore. You're too big for that seat. You have moved You're not better than, you're better off. Okay, very key. Continuing in a conquered season will exhaust you. Continuing in a conquered season, you finish your race. You did well. It's over. Season has changed. You're gonna wear yourself out trying to conquer something that's already been conquered. Okay, now you're just fighting against the air. This type of fight will not empower you. It will drain you. You become weary. Last point. Thank everybody for coming. Cash App, $ Apostle Robert Jenkins, PayPal, Apostle RJ. If you haven't given, if God leads you to give, you can purpose in your heart to give. Please be a blessing to us. We have some agendas that God wants us to do in the year of 2026, 27, and 28. And God wants us to get ready for it financially now to make a difference in people's lives. So I want you to start giving as much as you can by faith or purpose in your heart to believe that. All right. One who gives you spiritual, you can give him carnal. This is Bible. Very key. Powerful scripture, Pastor Stanford. You know, if you were still on, you still there, huh? God will sustain you. The enemy, point number 12, the enemy knows when you are out of season. The enemy knows when you are out of season. Satan waits for delay in your transition. He waits for delay in your transition. He waits for frustration in your transition. He'll send the last giant when you are at your weakest. When he have wore you out, you have fought and fought and fought, tried and tried, and you're getting weak. He says, send another giant in. Or you're taking your time, you're not moving, you're procrastinating, you're not shifting when you should shift. Brother Johnny, good to see you. The enemy waits to attack you. And he does this. He waits for the delay in your transit. A delay to the devil is vulnerability to his attacks. He waits for hesitation in your obedience. He waits for hesitation in your obedience. And he waits for repetition of outdated response. These are things he waits for. He waits for delay in your transition. He waits for hesitation in your obedience. And he waits for repetitions of outdated response. You keep responding from something that is expired. The Bible says in 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 15, that David waxed, he fainted. He became weak in that last battle. It went on so long. And the enemy, one of the enemies said, you know what? David killed that Goliath. Let's get him. He's weak now. They saw his vulnerability in that last battle. They see he's fighting too long. He don't have all the help he needs. And now is the time to attack David. If it wouldn't have been for one of David's soldiers, they would have killed him in battle because they saw him become weary. They saw him become faint. They saw him faint. He's at, and many times the enemy is waiting on your ministry. He's getting weary. He's getting weary. Go now. Send her now. Send Jezebel now. Send that now. Attack him now. Bring the rumor up now. Okay? Very key. And the enemy attack the delay, not the man. The enemy will attack the delay, not the man. It's a delay. It's a delay. Let me go there. Okay? Weariness is often a sign that you're fighting a battle God never told you to fight anymore. Many times weariness is often a sign that you're fighting a battle that God told you not to fight anymore. And when I said that today, just now, I felt the weight of the anointing. For some of you, God is saying, stop fighting it. Stop fighting. Let me handle it. Let it go. I got it from here. You did all that you're supposed to do. Don't get out of season because you continuing on. Trust me with the rest. I got somebody that can handle it. I got somebody that can step in. I'll take it from here. Okay? But many times you become weary because you keep fighting the battle that God told you You don't have to fight it anymore. And many times in my life, God has told me, let it be. I'm going to give you peace. You ain't got to fight that no more. I'm going to teach you how to rest in the storm. I'm going to teach you how to be in a storm. The boat is full of water, and how to go to sleep. How to rest. All right. Cash App, $ Apostle Robert Jenkins, PayPal, Apostle RJ. Thank you for coming with us today. Go over those 12 points. I'm going to probably come back tomorrow. I have a lot to teach on weariness that God wants me to get out before the end of this month. So we have to finish weariness in the month of November. So God told me to make sure that I exalt every point to go over it. So I can't, normally if I don't cover all the points, I'll just save it for a book or something. But God says he's getting us ready for whatever he wants me to do in the next 3 years. He wants us to really get ready to come into a greater understanding. Thank you, Pastor Jeff. Love you so much. And so we'll be doing that. All right. So I may be on tomorrow evening. I'll put the announcement up. I'll put the flyer up. Just watch the post as we always do. And I may be on the noonday tomorrow and deal with this because we have to cover a lot on longevity. What would it take for longevity? All right. All right. You say, Lord, help me to stay focused in this season for blessings so I can be a blessing to my family and friends. Yeah, we need that. We don't need nobody falling out at the end. We need your latter to be better than your former. We need people that endure to the end. The race is not given to the swift nor the strong, than him that endure. One of my greatest statements that Apostle Paul made, before he died, he said he finished his race. He was able to say he finished it. I finished my race. I fought a good fight. He was able to say that. He was able to say, I went to heaven before I died. I don't know if I entered the body, out of body. He literally was, and it's possible. And we need people who are no longer weary and well-doing. We need people who are transitioning from one level of faith to another level of faith, from one level of glory to another level of glory. All right. I love you. And we thank God for you. God bless you. Walk in God's favor. There is a rising of the remnant. You are called to this rising, born for this rising. There is a rebirthing and a rebuilding in the kingdom. The remnant is like a burnt wall that is still standing, strong and courageous, committed to the commitment, walk in understanding and lives in God's purpose. The remnant is bold and fearless. They go from purging to purity to process. There is a rising of the remnant, and the